So I always said Samhain, but it's actually So-in or So-ween is the way it's most pronounced, Samhain, as well as the Feast of All Souls, known in Celtic as All Hallows. Or for the forerunners of what is known today as Halloween, which retains elements of both. Last week presented an interesting and informative sermon on the holiness of Halloween. I'll briefly outline it. The word hallow means holy, and ween is slang for the word evening, rendering as even or Ian. It's like E''en. Hence, Halloween refers to the celebration of holy or departed ones and was originally called All Hallows Eve or All Souls. Of the Gaelic Samhain, most often pronounced as Samhain or Samhain, as well as the Feast of All Souls, noting Celtic lore as All Hallows, where the forerunners of what is known today as Halloween, which retains elements of both observances. Thus, modern Halloween is actually an amalgamation of two festivals, they being Samhain of October 31st into November 1st, and All Souls of November 2nd. Returning to our analysis of the myth that Halloween is a pagan celebration of darkness and evil, we can now surmise that the modern understanding of this holy festival is quite misinformed and its practice quite misguided. Superstitions aside, All Hallows is actually quite the opposite of darkness and evil, and instead is about lights, meaning the souls, and their holiness. The ancient practice of Samhain and All Hallows were eventually engrafted into the practice of the evolving Roman Catholic Church. Consequently, the Roman Catholic Church later inculcated these celebrations where November 1st was All Saints and November 2nd was All Souls, all other souls. Halloween is actually tied to two consecutive holy days of the Christian Church that has been celebrated from as early as 313 CE. Festival of the Dead or Feast of the Ancestors is held by many cultures throughout the world to honor or recognition of the ancestors and deceased members of the community. Depending on the time period and civilization, this Festival of the Dead occurred after the harvest in the 4 months of August, September, October, and November. The Day of the Dead observances are found far back in antiquity, including the Egyptians, Persians, Druids, and ancient Mexicans. In Japanese Buddhism, the festival honoring the departed, deceased spirit of one's ancestors is known as the Bon Festival and is held in July or August. For the Hindus, the ritual done for the dead ancestors is called Pitripakasha. It is based on the Hindu lunar calendar, and the period lasts for 15 days, falling towards the end of September. The Mexican holy holiday celebrating Hallowtide is called Dia de los Muertos.
Dia de los Muertos.
Dia de los Muertos.
Or Day of the Dead. Prior to the Spanish colonization, conversion of local people to Christianity, this festival was celebrated in the summertime. The ancient Persian, ancient Roman, and ancient northern nations of Egypt, the Festival of the Dead lasted up to 3 days from the end of October to the beginning of November. The 3-day observation also includes the Peruvians, the Pacific Islanders, and the people of the Tonga Islands. This is going to eventually tie to Masonry, don't worry. But the Inca religion, the entire month of November is Aaymarca, which translates to Festival of the Dead. The Chinese and Buddhist festival is called Ghost Festival. The Roman Catholic Church celebrates 3 days of All Hallowtide, from the 31st of October to the 1st of November, marking All Saints Eve, All Saints Day, and the 2nd of November as All Souls Day. So Samhain, there are many other names for Samhain, and Ancestor Night is the most applicable. Other names include Samuhuin, Samain, Saman, Halloween, Halloween Hallows, Hallowtide, Shadow Festival, Allantide, Third Harvest, Harvest Home, Geimredh, Day of the Dead, Feilenamarbh, Feast of the Dead, Spirit Night, Candle Night, November Eve, Nutcrack Night, Ancestor Night, and Applefest. Christian names for it include All Hallows Eve, although some churches fix that as November 7th, Hallows Eve, Santos, Devil Night, and Mischief Night. Samhain, Summer's End, is a cross-quarter day situated between autumn equinox and winter solstice. It is also called Martinmas, but that is properly the name for the actual cross-quarter day, which occurs when the sun reaches its power point in Scorpio. Some church calendars fix November 11th as Martinmas. Scholars disagree on this, but many fix this date as the Celtic New Year. November 1st is the actual date of Samhain, but like other Celtic-derived festivals, is celebrated on its eve. November 1st was New Year's Day for ancient Celtic civilizations, which day they shared with ancient Babylonians. As stated in our discussion on the Festival of the Dead, Samhain is the time of the year for remembering and honoring our departed ones. Halloween falls after sunset on October 31st and the eve of November 1st. The celebrated holiday derived from the ancient Celtic festival known as Samhain coincided with the midnight culmination of the Pleiades star cluster. So Samhain also fell on the cross-quarter day that lies midway between the September equinox and the December solstice. In many cultures, this cross-quarter day is associated with the Day of the Dead, culmination. The Pleiades star cluster culminates at midnight on only one day of the year. At this time, the Pleiades is opposite the sun. Therefore, the star cluster rises in the east around sunset and sets in the west around sunrise. When midway between rising and setting, the Pleiades culminates, reaching its highest point in the heavens at midday. One night before its midnight culmination, the Pleiades culminates 4 minutes after midnight. 2 minutes? The night after the midnight culmination, the Pleiades culminates four minutes before midnight. Because the Pleiades cluster returns to the same place in the sky 4 minutes earlier, with each passing night, the midnight culmination can only happen once a year. Now it kind of goes into the different calendars. So cross-quarter day and midnight culmination is school. The age-old festival of Samhain apparently celebrates the midnight culmination of the Pleiades cluster and the cross-quarter day as simultaneous or near simultaneous events. Since the time equinox and the winter solstice represents 90 days, that means about 45 days should lapse between the September equinox and November 1st, and about 45 days from November 1st to December solstice. For the fun of it, I went to the website to find out the number of days between September 23rd equinox and November 1st, and from November 1st till December 22nd, and he did this in 2007. Why was I shocked to find out that less than 40 days stand between the equinox and November 1st, but more than 50 days separate November 1st and December solstice? This is hardly a good ballpark reference for this 2007 cross-quarter event. November 7th coincides more closely to the mid-season point, but the midnight culmination seems even more askew, being 3 weeks out of kilter. In our time, the midnight culmination of the Pleiades occurs on or near November 21st. October 31st paying homage to the Julian calendar. Let's presume that the ancient forebearer of Halloween, Samhain, celebrated the midnight culmination of the Pleiades and cross-quarter day on the same night. That prompted me to look back in time, searching for a century when there were two phenomena happened in close conjunction. It appeared two paired up on or near the same date around 1000 AD. This is almost 6 centuries before the advent of the Gregorian calendar in 1582. In the 11th century, the Julian calendar, used back when there was 1 week out of September with the seasons, in the year 1000, the September solstice fell on September 17th, and the December solstice fell on December 15th. Amazingly, October 31st, that 1000 fell about midway between these equinoxes and solstice dates. Despite our use of the Gregorian calendar, we still celebrate Halloween on October 31st. That may account for our present day 1 week discrepancy between the date of Halloween, All Saints Day, and the cross-quarter day. Precession of the equinox advances culmination date. As far as the Gregorian calendar is concerned, the mid-season cross-quarter day always falls on or near November 7th. Some 1,000 years ago, the midnight culmination of Pleiades and the cross-quarter day pretty much happened on the same date. At the present time, the midnight culmination of Pleiades takes place on or near November 21st, about 2 weeks after the cross-quarter day. This changing date for the midnight culmination is due to something called precession of equinoxes. By the time the year 3000 comes rolling around, the midnight culmination of Pleiades will happen in December, and December will take its turn as the month of Pleiades.
Yeah, I'm not real worried about 3000. That's just me.
Yeah, right. So Pleiades star group, also known as the Seven Sisters, are located in the constellation of Taurus. So everyone's always asking, what's the Taurus symbol with the bull and the, even like with Moses, where they had that gold calf and they had the shield in the middle of his horn. So it's almost the nearest cluster to Earth and is the cluster most obvious to the naked eye in the night sky. The Celtic year is split into two halves: summer's beginning, Beltane, and summer's end, Samhain. Thus, the position of Pleiades rises in the sky as the marker for the seasons in the Druidic and Celtic tradition. However, the Pleiades are hard to see when at horizon, even under the best conditions, because of their faintness. They can be seen sometimes during the night throughout the year, except in late April and May. Each day they rise and set 4 minutes earlier, so Pleiades rising yields a wide range of dates. Samhain begins when the Pleiades rise at sunset. For Persians, the feast of Isis began with the midnight culmination of the Pleiades. Most germane to our discussion, the Druids' midnight rites on the 1st of November with the Pleiades at meridian was a specific time for Rite of the Dead. The Mexican city of Teotihuacan, built in the 2nd century, was oriented to the setting of the Pleiades. The Navajos associated the Pleiades with their principal deity, Black God, creator of fire and light. So what is so special about Pleiades? Plutonius, the Greek philosopher, said, the Pleiades' role then is to help seekers become consciously aware of the divine knowledge and wisdom, which is why their etheric, astral, and mental bodies must be purified, being able to integrate with the spiritual realm. The Pleiades representing a spiritual station where the perfect model within seekers is energized and comes alive on earth. In the book Mystic Americanism, Grace K. Morey tells us, God and the Holy Spirit center in the mystic Pleiades. Around them swing the starry constellations. Pleiades is a part of the greater mysteries, the home of God, who dwells behind the light and within the shadows, eternal mind, acting upon all-pervading spirit during aeons of time and altering with aeons of rest. Almost dumb. However, it is more than remembering and honoring. Elade's Encyclopedia of Religion states as follows: the even day of Samhain were characterized as a time when the barriers between the human and supernatural worlds were broken. Not a festival honoring any particular Celtic deity, Samhain acknowledged the entire spectrum of non-human forms that roam the earth during this period. This is the time of year when the veil between the world of the dead and the world of the living is said to be its thinnest. Spirits and souls of loved ones are said to have more power and ability to visit us. Fairies were said to be particularly active in this season. Samhain is also a time for personal reflection and for recognizing our faults and flaws and creating a method of rectifying them. So we see from the esoteric or mystery aspect of Samhain, Festival of the Dead, that this particular time of year lends itself for the veil between our earthly physical world and the celestial spirit world is thinning, and thus more conducive for us to commune with our loved ones. Why? I believe that the answer lies in the fact that astrologically, the beginning of November marks the rising of Pleiades in relation to the setting sun. So what does all that mean? I kind of had fun with ChatGPT, and I kind of said, what are the ties between Halloween and Masonry? And it came up with a really good thought out answer. So it brings up 8 points. Death and rebirth, kind of translated to our third degree in a sense, that death is not the end, being the meaning of the third, and the same with that. Veil between the worlds. There's hidden truths to be accessed in both. That's what we're learning in our degrees of the hidden truths. Masks and disguises. I kind of liked how we went with this. So concealing the nature, the exoteric versus the esoteric, the outer versus the inner. He tied it to the square and compasses, saying that the physical world is a disguise where underneath is the real thing, right? We're making a circle with the compass, and we're making a square with the square. Ancestors and remembrance. It really kind of pointed the picture that, you know, our service we do when a brother dies is more important than we really kind of, that we do our best, and it's hard to get guys, but that's really one of the most important things we do as Masons is the Masonic funeral. That ritual and symbols, what is seen, not all that exists. Fear and courage, ghost stories is, Halloween with ghost stories, and we're telling masks, things like that. Whereas the Master Mason degree is teaching us to embrace the inevitability of death, right? And not be scared by it. Seasonal change in cosmic order. So the cross quarter day, whereas Freemasonry, life moves through phases, right? We're taught that life moves through phases. And that was kind of the 8 that came up with.
The Pleiades, when you look at it with the naked eye, it looks like a little tiny Big Dipper. It's got that shape. Now, when you zoom in on it with even something as small as a 4-inch telescope, it's a glob of stars, which means there's thousands of them. The seven sisters, as it's also known, you don't see them anymore because they're all backlit by the other stars. It's an amazing thing. What that has to do with Halloween and Milky Way bars, I have no idea. I just think that was interesting science.
And I think a lot of it goes back to the calendar, right? And there's always like our calendar is kind of wrong in a sense. Like the calendar that's why we have leap years to catch up. Our calendar isn't what it used to be, and there's a lot of discrepancies. That's why they say a lot of these events, like 2012 with the Mayans, like that's going to be because we're not on the same calendar. So in theory, that Halloween, All Souls Day really should be the middle ground between the solstice and the equinox. And it's kind of been shifted because our calendar's off, Well,
we're on the Gregorian calendar now,
right?
But I guess we're talking science here a little bit. The Mayans' calendar is 100% more accurate than ours. It stopped at 2012. I'm thinking there was an Andy over there who was going, let's just stop at 2012.
Yeah, it was like end of the cycle, right? Yeah.
And that thing was accurate for thousands of years.
Right.
And to me, that's amazing. Our actual orbital year, I guess we'll call it, 365 days, 6 hours. That's why we have the leap year every 4 years.
Right.
Yeah. Samhain or Halloween, whatever you prefer to call it, the 31st of October should be the midpoint. Right. And I'm sure at one point it was. Now we might be celebrating Halloween in July, distant future.
Yeah, and it's kind of like Christmas too, right? Where it's like, if the Bible says Jesus is born in the month of flowers, like no one, the 25th is a day after the winter solstice. And they kind of, when they were controlling the Roman Empire, said, let's pick a day that everybody celebrates. Because the concept of paganism, like we've taken the word paganism and think it means like bloodletting a goat in the field. It just meant the religion of the people. That's all it was. And I could maybe make the case that maybe they were right? Like, like the Catholic Church kind of came in to kind of control this mass amount of people and said, hey, we'll take everything and hide it in our catacombs and, you'll never know what we know kind of thing. I think they know far more than they let on and keep their people in darkness.
At one time, they didn't want people knowing how to read. If you were not of noble birth, right, you were not going to learn how to read. Why?
Yeah.
And if you somehow learned, you're a witch.
Right.
Especially if you're a woman.
Right.
Well, a lot of women who were nothing more than midwives were condemned as witches, man. And they were either burned at the stake or drowned or crushed or,
I wonder if there's any Freemasons condemning witches.
Probably, right?
Oh, in that time, there would have to be.
Mm-hmm. Have to be. But because, it's fun. I think so. Halloween, really, I think the 31st, from a lot of stuff I was reading, that's not really the holiday. The holiday is the 1st and the 2nd, All Souls Day being the 2nd. It's supposed to just be the night before, the event. And I think we wear masks. Yeah, and I think we wear masks. And it took a violent turn. I think the concept of wearing masks was because some of the stuff I was reading too was like the idea of the jack-o'-lantern, and that kind of ties back to Freemasonry, whereas the lodge is bringing light to us. The jack-o'-lantern is bringing light into the darkness. So they were lighting lanterns to light the darkness, meaning awakening the soul. The idea of masks originally might have been, not because we want to celebrate spookiness, but the veil between the worlds is the smallest. And there's not everything we want to communicate with. We don't want to communicate with everything that's coming through there. So that I think that practice was to kind of ward off the ones you don't want.
Well, it was so that spirits wouldn't recognize you. That's what it was. And the initial jack-o'-lanterns, you keep calling that, they were turnips or potatoes.
I've heard that before, yeah.
Okay. And I don't believe that even originated in Ireland. If I'm not mistaken, that originated Switzerland, I want to say, or Germany. So one of the...
Well, another thing about the jack-o'-lantern, even as we use it today, the outside of a pumpkin is useless. The inside, what you take out of it, that's what's useful.
Yeah.
And the light is in the inside, so that's why we put the light in there. Makes it useful.
Huh. Pretty cool way of thinking about them. Yeah, you can roast pumpkins, yeah.
Yeah, it's the whole thing.
I wouldn't want to though.
No, they're not bad. They're not bad. Yeah, they're pretty good if you do them right. Yeah.
I was going to have a jack-o'-lantern with a square and compass here.
You should.
Should.
I've seen them before too. Yeah, they're pretty cool. Yeah.
I'm not that good.
No. Yeah.
You can get a pattern for it,
You can. Yeah.
you know, and then just like poke all ass though.
I'm not a fan of Halloween in general as we celebrate today,
Right.
but I love the idea of jack-o'-lanterns. Always have.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I like about the holiday.
I mean, I love Halloween for every aspect of it. You know, was I telling you when my kids were little? The rule was you can go trick or treating on the block. You come home before you take anything out of your pumpkin or bag or whatever. You gotta show it to Daddy. Okay, Daddy, and I'll go through the.
Oh yeah, the Milky Way
And I
story.
take out all their Milky Ways. And, Daddy, why? They're poison. Well, my youngest daughter, she got mad at me for something, and she ate a Milky Way. This isn't poison. It's delicious. Well, my tribute went down like 50% after that. But
I like Snickers. I was really never a Milky Way fan. I don't know. They had that like weird. Yeah.
it's caramel.
No, not the caramel. I love the caramel because that's in Snickers too. The Milky Way had that like, what's that like? The pinkish kind of stuff.
Oh, the
in it.
nougat?
Yeah. I like Snickers over it. I don't know. I was always a
I
Snickers
was a
guy.
Twix guy.
Yeah, Twix are good too. Yep.
Yeah, that can go with it too. Or a plain old everyday run of the mill Hershey bar.
Well, my favorite, and you don't really see them anymore, are the dots.
You can never get into them.
No.
You know, I never hated candy corn. Everyone's always hating on candy corn. I did never minded candy corn.
It just is so. It was just too sweet.
It's a different taste. Yeah.
I still like it.
You know what? I don't even know if you guys have even heard of it. Chunkies.
Sounds familiar.
Chunkies. When I was a kid, they were about this big, about that thick, and they had peanuts and raisins in them. I remember part of the theme song was "Open Wide for Chunkies." And I mean, you're a little kid, dude.